Welcome to the Spent the Rent podcast. I am your host, Patty Rose. My guest today from Boop Troop Eugene is Trey Stewart. Trey, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello.
So before we get into this, we want to drill this home. You are not here representing the movement. You are not here representing Black Lives Matter or Black Unity. I think everybody knows you are a little biased. We're not going to try to hide that fact. That you started your work, which we're going to go into today, as a sympathizer of Black Lives Matter, and you're still about the cause, but you've decided that it's easier and better for you, not easier, but it's better for you to go into more of a media area and try to stay impartial. And we'll talk about that at length, but I do appreciate you doing this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I haven't done a podcast yet, so.
Yeah, this is the first of many. So if anybody's unfamiliar with who you are and who Boop Troop Eugene is, you've become a little bit of a local celebrity in the last couple weeks. This weekend specifically, the Black Lives Matter and Black Lives Unity, correct? That's the protests that have been organized in Springfield, has hit Springfield streets. And so far, in my opinion, who's someone, again, I kind of biased as well, but I definitely can see both sides to everything. The way that I grew up, my father's extremely conservative, my mother's extremely liberal. So I'm kind of at a benefit in that I can see things from different perspectives. But they've been nonviolent. There hasn't been a lot of, destruction of property, if any. Definitely not by the people organizing these events. But I think the reason for round two is because the internet, the social media comments that people have been making, especially in Thurston, were out of control. So it's like, I guess our point's not getting across.
Yeah, that it's mainly people. A lot of people on that Lane County caught on camera page. As soon as it gets put on there, then that's like when the comments start to get nasty and the trolls.
It's funny because I bought a house in Thurston 2 years ago, or I'm buying it. I didn't have cash. That's a lot. So I bought a house 2 years ago, and when I did, one of my good friends, a customer of mine who's become a good friend, added me to that group. And so it's a train wreck. I mean, it's a train wreck always. It is actually a very useful tool for the community, but because of that, there's other groups popping up that are going to be moderated a little differently. And I don't really want to throw the moderators under the bus because they're doing everything they can. Moderating a group is really difficult, especially when there's political issues, because, like this, I'm going to show my bias. I'm fine with that. My goal is to show that you are doing a service and that what you're doing has been appreciated by people that may not even disagree, because you've really put yourself out there and put in some hours. Oh my gosh. So first of all, tell me a little bit about Boop Troop Eugene and what that is.
So Boop Troop Eugene, it got started. So Boop Troop, the name pretty much came randomly. So when I first started streaming, I have a tactical police vest that I have, and it has a gun holder in the front. And instead of obviously having a gun in it, I showed a hand sanitizer bottle in it. And when I was streaming, I would turn the camera down and I would give people hand sanitizer, and then just randomly, because I always make a bunch of random noises when I do things. I'm so ADD, but we're walking through the road, and when I was giving people hand sanitizer, I just kept going boop 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 every time I did it. So then everyone in the comments that were watching just kept saying boop every time I did it, and then they were like, "Oh, we're just gonna call ourselves the Boop Troop," and that's just started from there.
It's crazy how fast this is happening.
Yeah.
A lot of times with my podcast, it's basically just my Facebook feed coming to life, and I watch what people are doing, and then I reach out, and I messaged you a bunch. Funny enough, you had posted a thing. We don't know each other. We've never met. This is the first time we've talked face to face. We have a lot of mutual friends, obviously, but you had posted something, and it was a meme, and it was like, if we were a couple, what would you say to me? And I had messaged you already about the podcast, but I don't think you saw it because you're getting buried. Messages are getting buried. And
wasn't that start an argument thread?
Yeah, it was like, let's start an argument. And I was like, why haven't you agreed to come on my podcast? Which is not how I approach it ever. And then it was funny. And then I ended up deleting it. And then because it was stupid and it's just not how I want to represent what I do.
Oh, you should have left it on. You should have.
It was funny because if people took it out of context. But anyway, you had reached out and you finally got back to the messages, and I'm grateful that you did. So the Boop Troop, the name started from hand sanitizer, another effective COVID.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good name because it's easy to remember. And, it's crazy because if you look at the description on the website and on your Facebook page, which both of those the links will be in the show notes. This is started in the beginning of June.
Yeah,
like middle of June.
Yeah, it was like May 30th, May 31st was the first stream or something, I think. Was that Friday night? That's like the night that started it all off.
So how did this come about? So what we're talking about is that if anybody hasn't seen your feeds, which is crazy because the last one you did got 40,000 views. So it's nice. It's reaching just astronomical amount of people. When you started the feeds on Facebook Live, what was the first one?
So the first one was that Friday night. I had been spending like the previous 4 days, so that Friday night, like watching all of the writing and stuff happening in Minneapolis. So I was already just like tuned in, just like watching the live streams all day at work, all day at night, falling asleep watching them all. So I was kind of just like interested in the movement and seeing what was going on because I'd never seen anything like this before. And I was just like, this is kind of crazy. Like, I didn't really understand why they were so upset about things because I don't have like a whole lot of Black history, and in my family, we can get into that in a little bit. Anyway, I had been seeing the live streams and people cover the events and stuff. And then there were some talks about some people downtown starting to like form up and like do like a protest or meetup. So my buddy Cameron hit me up and he came and picked me up, and we went downtown and we're like standing on top of a parking garage and like heard some fireworks getting shot off over close to where that intersection was at, where it all started, where the looting and everything happened at. And so we just went over there, and I was just like, well, I'm just going to go live on Facebook when we get down there. So if someone wants to see what's happening or whatever else. I didn't really like plan on going live the whole time we went down there. We just wanted to go see what was going on. And as soon as we get down there at the road, it was like right before all the fires and stuff happened. There's probably only like maybe like 20, 30 people there. They started pulling down all the traffic cones and like barriers and porch furniture. And then all of a sudden just started lighting it all on fire. So I was just like, damn, this looks intense. Like, not like thinking about being a reporter or anything. I was just like, this looks crazy. So I'm just going to like film it. So
and you already had your gimbal? Is it called a gimbal? The one that keeps your phone centered?
Yeah, it's like a gimbal or something because it has like a gyro on it, so it moves around.
Right. So you already had that?
No, I didn't. I didn't have anything. I was just holding my phone. Because I didn't have any equipment, so I was just like holding my phone. And we went live, and then I guess my friends that I had on Facebook wasn't like too many even at the time because I'm usually kind of good at keeping my Facebook page personal because it has like all my family and everything in it.
Sure. That's gone. That's out the window.
Yeah, that's gone.
Yeah. It's interesting how passions, this is something that I can tell that you're passionate about just because the hours that you've put in. Mm-hmm. And just, I think Boop Troop, I think it's getting off on this Black Lives Matter thing, but I do think that long-term, it's going to be more than that. It's not that this is a huge issue. It's the number one issue in the country. I think it's even a bigger issue than COVID because it's going to be here for longer, mm-hmm. and it's been here forever. Since the origins.
Yeah.
But I think that the goal is to do guerrilla journalism, street journalism. And I think that that's really needed because our local news is all outsourced it's not even local anymore. And so, and because of the rise of Facebook Live and shows like mine, the podcasts that are local, we have our own voice and we have a way to do it. Now with what you're doing, you're just hitting record and letting it go. Obviously you're a human being. So you kind of, you're on, you'll be behind the camera sometimes talking and people will, you can see your character, but you're not the star of the show. The star of the show is what you're showing. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much that, like I was saying, like that first night we just went down there and went live. And then like, I wasn't even paying attention to the screen or if anybody was really watching, because I was just trying to watch what was going on in front of me. And next thing I looked, we were at like, it was at like 500 and 600 and 700, then I hit 1,000 and like 1.5 and 2 and like although I think that the highest we hit that night was like 6.5 or 6.6 thousand like people in the live stream, and then like I kept getting a bunch of phone calls, so like the Facebook video just ended up cutting out, so we had to keep coming back. But yeah, I just went down and just pulled up the camera, just like, holy crap, look how crazy this is. They're lighting fires down in Eugene, and then just like everybody decided to join because I was just like one of the first people down there live, and I was just like, wow.
Eugene has a pretty crazy history of protest, and well, that wasn't. I think the fires, that rioting, is completely separate, and I think that we've seen that in Thurston in the last couple of days. That has there been tear gas in the last couple of days? I've heard rumors that there has.
So I So the other night, not last night, but the first night that we did the Thurston March and we dealt with all the police underneath that bridge over there by the library, I heard that when the group got dispersed, there was a can of tear gas that was deployed at like a smaller group. I didn't see it, so I'm not like
Can't confirm that.
Yeah. But that's what I was told that night, and by a couple people from the boot troop that were there that were like, yeah, we got gas and had to run. So I believe them, but I didn't see anything happen.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't heard that at all. And so this is interesting. So I think that gives us a good segue into the ethics of journalism. I know that you're obviously doing this amateur, you're doing this independently, and hopefully you do pursue an education in this. I really think that you've got a future in it. I think that it's obvious that you're passionate. So it's funny that sometimes, like I said before, passions will find you when it's natural. But it's good because in my opinion, you have shown a lot of ethics. And so one of the ethical things that you do is you try not to show faces, which is easier because of COVID, there's masks, and then no license plates. And so, how did you kind of come to the conclusion that these are the ethics that you needed to show?
Well, just by like just by like a lot of people in the chat and stuff kind of reminded me, since there was so many people watching, that like having people's faces and stuff in, some people don't like want their family members or friends to know that they're out protesting or whatever else, just like protect people's personal identity, because people can get doxxed and that type of stuff. Yeah. So like, say someone's watching that doesn't agree with the march or doesn't think that the people out there should be out there, then they can like screen capture the thing and like reverse image search people, blah, 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 blah. I've already had people do it. I had people complain about it and stuff. So as soon as people started to make it known that it's better to just respect people's privacy and license plates and stuff, I kind of tried to do the best that I could, like while watching everything else going on, to do that. And also I've been like an avid like viewer of live streams and like the internet and like IRL and stuff for like years. So like I kind of like know some of the basic rules, because I've been watching like Ice Society and then like all those goofy IRL guys over in LA and stuff for years. So I have like a little bit of like kind of like a gist of like kind of how the rules go a little bit, but I've never like done it, you know what I mean? So it all just like,
yeah. And it's tough to be perfect, especially when there's 500 to 1,000 people or whatever the numbers are. It's tough to be perfect. And then obviously there's some things that people you can kind of get a feel for it. Some people want to be on camera, they're coming right to you, they're a magnet to that camera, so
yeah. I mean, I'm definitely getting a little bit better at feeling it out and stuff, and then I've gotten a lot better with the gimbal that I use now, so I can like kind of look around in the crowd and like look around at people. So somebody's like looking at me and like they're like making it look like they don't want to be on camera or something. I'm pretty good at getting around them and stuff like that. And yeah, there are definitely the people that are like, rah, like want to get in it too. So.
And then you flip it around, you flip it around on yourself. And I think that, a lot of times that what people are watching may not be the best, video. It's just your head, but then, no offense. No, but then,
just your head.
I know.
What are you trying to say, huh?
I know. No, but you're protecting people, and I get it. Yeah. But it that's a lot of times when the audio is great because it's constructive dialogue, and sometimes you don't know who you're talking to. I know that on the first night, on Friday, there was a guy who was very apologetic to you for some of the DMs that he had sent, some of the nasty things he said to you online, and that's why I really truly believe that what you're doing and the movement separately. There's a lot of positive, and it's reaching people that may not think that it's having a positive impact on them, because they're like, ooh, this is really uncomfortable. This is really, it's just my neighborhood. I don't like it. I'm uncomfortable. It's like, protests shouldn't be comfortable, because then it wouldn't be effective.
Yeah.
But there's a national dialogue, but definitely in Springfield, there's a massive dialogue going on, and kind of a reshaping how society is going to tolerate some of the racism that is rampant, So one of the other things that I've noticed with ethics is, breaking up fights before they start. One of the big MVPs in this whole Black Lives Matter movement in Eugene is his name's Isaiah, and he can be seen wearing a furry outfit, like I think it's like a leopard print, and he's a big dude, and you can, I've never met him either. I think we've now became Facebook friends. But you can just tell his warmth and his kindness just from your feeds that he'll be protecting this side, and then he'll be protecting this side, and he's literally blocking anybody that's being an aggressor from getting to the person that they're trying to be aggressive towards. And that's really encouraging to see. we're here for dialogue, you know. And
yeah, Isaiah's awesome, and him and Clea, which are like two of the leaders of the Black Unity movement, which are one of the groups that's been organizing the protests and stuff in Springfield. He was like one of the people that was down on Friday, if you had seen that stream, that was like trying to hold everybody back from breaking stuff as well. So, and that was like the first night that I like met Isaiah. We didn't actually like formally really meet that night, but like he knew that I was videotaping him and stuff like that. So we just kind of were speaking back and forth a little bit throughout the next couple of days, because he was at every event. But yeah, I actually met Isaiah that first night, because he was even that night like standing in between people in the fires and people in the buildings trying to get people to stop breaking stuff. So he's always been a peace warrior. It's been awesome having him around.
That's the difficult thing, is that there's so much talk about, you know, what the framing and the words matter. So when people are saying, oh, the riots that are happening, and it's like, I mean, what makes a riot? Now, obviously that first night was unacceptable. Nobody wants destruction of property. It's counterproductive to the cause. And as somebody that I am an independent contractor in a barber shop, so I'm not the owner, but I own my own part of it, my own stake in it. Yeah, I was thinking about, are the windows going to get broke? You know, and businesses across the area have been affected by that. And it's really unfortunate, because we actually pride ourselves on open dialogue and encouraging everybody to have opinions. And as long as they're not hurtful and hateful, then we will talk about things. We don't have to always agree either, you know. So that first night put a bad taste in people's mouth, but I think that had a lot to do, not to make excuses for whoever was doing it, but I think it had a lot more to do with COVID and quarantine and people being like, I'm tired of being cooped up. So they're mad about that. You know,
that's what I thought, because that night, like the original big protest that was supposed to happen, and the first organized like Black Lives Matter movement was supposed to be that big one on the Sunday, that the big march that everyone took from the federal courthouse all the way down to the park. That was supposed to be like the first big one, and like that's what I was saying, that Friday night, like that was just really random. Like we just happened to hear fireworks, and people I think just happened to be downtown, and just I think that's what it was maybe everybody else seeing kind of what was going on everywhere else and being trapped in from COVID. You know, that was like the first time that many people had really been out in public like that. And Eugene, I think since COVID had happened, I think that you're right. People were just pissed off for being locked up for so long, and just like needed to let it all out for being stuck in for that long. And it wasn't, I remember seeing a lot of the people that were breaking and stuff, and it was just like a bunch of kids and just like pissed off people. It wasn't, you know, there wasn't even hardly anybody of color at all that was like really doing anything. It just looked like a lot of just like pretty pissed off, just like, oh, I gotta release my anger, like type of situation. So
now I'm gonna throw a curveball at you, and I know that you're not here representing, well, we've already talked about this, you're not representing the black unity, but it's obvious you're biased, and I think your opinion would matter on this. Now, when you're at these rallies, have you ever felt unsafe in Eugene? We're going to get to Portland in a bit, but in Eugene, have you ever felt unsafe?
So when everything first started happening, especially that night when everything was going crazy, I never felt like unsafe, I don't think, because of the people there. Like maybe when I was like up next to the buildings when the glass was being broken, yeah, but that was because I was putting myself like up in the front of the building. But I've never like personally felt like threatened or unsafe by any of the people. I started to feel pretty unsafe like I'd say like three or 4 days after streaming, because it was like the first time I was like actually receiving like a bunch of messages and stuff, and I just had like ton of death threats. Just people, like I had people follow me home, drive by me like pretty close to my house, like because I had people drop me off away from my house so I can walk there without having people know like where I live and stuff. Because I have people in my messages like, oh, we know what car you drive, we know where you live, we're gonna come by your house, blah 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 blah, this and that. And the one night that I kind of just like switched my mind, and like kind of why I just like don't really care anymore. It was a night that I was streaming, and I was like sitting like out like kind of down the road from my house, and like somebody in the chat was just like going crazy, just like F you, F you, F you, F you, like I know where you live, I'm watching you, you better run, you better watch your back. And like literally like a couple minutes after them spamming that in the chat, this car drove by like really slow in front of me, where I was sitting down like out by myself in the middle of this like almost field, just completely by myself. And just the stream, and I was talking on the stream, and we had about like 600 or 700 people just chilling in there, and the car drives by, and they're like fuck you, go on, what are you doing out here, blah blah blah, just screaming at me, like driving by real slow. And I was just like, all right, like that makes sense, I guess I should walk home. So I got out to walk home, throw my bag and stuff, and like there was this bush or whatever that was kind of close to where I was at, and like I guess I like moved my bag and adjusted it, and it like moves on my jacket and it made like a kind of sound, so it sounded like somebody was like in this bush like right next to me when I was walking, and it like freaked me out. So like I started to run for a minute, and my bag was so heavy it like swung around in front of me, and I lost my balance and ate shit and like popped a bunch of water bottles in my bag, and like my knee and hand got all like messed up, and I was just like, I don't know, that just like freaked me out, and like I like went home and was just like super freaked out and paranoid about it, and like that night just kind of thought about it, and then from then on, like pretty much everybody, without getting off on a huge tangent on that,
Sure.
Pretty much just like everybody that's like been messaging me, and like you said, have been having problems since then. I've been doing the best that I can to like approach people, and like people have been following me around like during protests, harassing me. Trey, we know who you are. We know you're not actually neutral, blah, blah, blah. You used to chant all this. You're right. Like I did used to do all that stuff when it first started because I didn't know, like I wasn't like educated on like.
I guess my question is that, you know, watching the protests, and this is the difficult thing I have with ACAB, okay, is that watching the protests, sometimes the protectors of the peace are the police, you know? So in that moment, because what would you do if something, I mean, you have the right, this is the whole point of the movement, in my opinion, is we want protection from the police for everyone. Literally, that's what it's about. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, the only reason people are anti-cop, and I get the argument of ACAB, I don't agree with the sentiment because I think it's not effective in my opinion, but that's a separate thing. But it's because if it's not protecting everybody, then it can't be, it's a broken system at that point. And that's what people are frustrated with, because as a white person, I have felt protection from police, you know, by police in many situations, but watching the feeds, I think an average citizen, and I know I'm throwing a curveball at you, but it's just, I've seen a lot of people's reactions, and I've talked to people, you know, friends of mine, and that's how they see it. They're like, they're screaming in the cop's face, and yet they're protected by those same cops. It's a really difficult thing for people to swallow. But I think that's the whole point. Wouldn't you agree that it's like, it's because there's not that protection for everyone, because human life isn't valued. You know, like George Floyd's life, they don't think about his family losing him. You know what I mean? That's the whole issue.
I feel like maybe some people's frustration, and maybe to put some sort of perspective on why people are screaming at the cops and stuff, because I understand it. And me personally, like I'm not for ACAB as well. Like I have, like my aunt's an ex-cop, and like as soon as the streams and stuff started, she was spamming me with messages. Why are you saying fuck the police, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like they're not all bad. Like I grew up wanting to be a police officer. I grew up wanting to be in military, like big Call of Duty kid, you know what I mean? So like I have respect for that and for law enforcement and stuff, just because of where I grew up and everything. But I think why people get so upset at the police, and why people are screaming at the police now, especially with what you've seen in Springfield, is they've done a good job of marching for themselves and trying to get a movement going and awareness going for themselves, and they feel offended, or they feel like the police shouldn't have to feel like they need to be the one to like block off roads and do that stuff and like end the marches, because regardless of whether the police are there or not, they have an agenda to have a route to get home safely, and they have a team of bikes and stuff like that. So I think that's what pisses them off, is when the police come and cut off the routes when they're already being peaceful. You know, they're out marching in the streets peacefully, not breaking anything, and then the police just end up showing up, barricading off the road like down there, you know what I mean? And we're not doing anything wrong. So I think that's why it irritates people, because when they're out there trying to practice their rights and just do things peacefully, as you've seen in the videos, the police will be out there just asserting themselves in and trying to direct traffic around, or make up new rules or whatever else, as you've seen. And I don't want to throw shit at them either, but
no, it's tough. And I mean, I can tell that you're thinking about it from different angles, and that's how we have to look at this. You know, we have to, and I don't know. It's difficult. And again, I think the issues and why these are continuing, the protests will continue in Springfield, are because of what's happening online more than what's happening in person. I know on Friday this weekend, the gentleman with the American flag that was walking around, I ended up hearing him on the feed later in it, and he was really having some constructive conversation. You know, it's like
so the thing about him, not to cut you off, aside from what happened on my stream, he actually like had his own phone up the whole night too, and was shoving his phone in people's faces, and like trying to do that and be the aggressor. And towards the end, when he was on that street corner, at the end of that night where you saw he was talking with everybody, he actually ended up like turning off his phone, putting it in his pocket, and like actually just like having a conversation and talking. And that's like what's been happening with people. Same thing that you mentioned earlier, where the gentleman that had been messaging me kind of was walking with me and apologized and like that, you know what I mean? Like that's really like, especially in Springfield, like what everyone being persistent has been about, is people have like been like going, okay, well, this actually might mean something to some people because they're doing it over and over and over and over. And if we just listen for them for a minute instead of just screaming and waving our flag, you know what I mean? And that's what's been awesome, is because I've been able to see both sides, hear both sides, and like see these people actually just calm down and be level-headed and listen to them for a minute. And a lot of them take the other side, you know what I mean? And it's
Sure.
been awesome. So.
And the other side isn't necessarily, I mean, there's definitely racism, but the other side, quote unquote, isn't about racism. It's about maybe they just want normalcy. They don't want to see the protests. But, you know, for a lot of people, enough is enough. And they're going to make things uncomfortable until there's change. And that's just the way it's going to be. And I've been impressed with how many people I'm acquainted with, even family, who have noticed the nuance of this whole situation, where they can see, you know, things where they're like, well, I mean, I don't like it, but at the same time, it's like, I know that Black people have been treated poorly by the police and by society in this country, and the history is wrong. And I really commend people that can admit that they've been wrong, you know, when racism, that white of any color, because I don't, whatever you call it, discrimination, racism. I know that there's an argument some make that you can't be racist against white people. We'll just call it discrimination then. You know what I mean? Because discrimination shouldn't be tolerated, you know, and it means a lot to me when I see somebody admitting that they've been wrong and that they've with information that they can educate themselves. So that's really cool. You know, one of the things that's Portland has been different. Let's just be real. So that first night that you had talked about in Eugene, that's more commonplace in Portland, with the graffiti, with broken businesses, broken windows. You've been up there a couple times. And I noticed on the other feed on Friday, you were talking about going up there. Did you end up going up on Friday?
Not that Friday night, because the stuff in Springfield ended up going until like almost midnight. Like they were going for a long time. It was maybe even a little bit later than that. And I was like, yeah, I got too much going on the next day. And it was like, I have a bunch of streamer friends up in Portland, so I was just like, they got it. I
think you're doing a service, even though it's gonna stay smaller. I think you're doing a service for Lane County. You know, I think that not to tell you what to do, but we really appreciate, and I say we as a broad swath. I think there's people that disagree with anything about the movement, but they do still appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's been really cool to see, you know, that there's been some positivity. There's been a lot of negativity, but it's getting drowned out by the positivity, which is really good.
Yeah.
Portland.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed.
Portland, you had a situation that you had talked about a little bit on one of your feeds, where you basically you had a gun drawn. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so pretty much what happened was that night, I went to Portland with Lucas and or Luke, people know him by, and so we were out streaming, and towards the end of the night, there was like everything had settled down. We marched over from the Justice Center over to the Apple Store, and there was like a group of guys out there playing football and just like kind of just having fun. The night was winding down, but there was also just like this homeless dude or some dude that was like walking around with like this big pipe or something, I guess, that kept coming and threatening the group a little bit. So whatever, they shoot him off. I thought that was ended. So I was like, all right, whatever, ending the stream. Lucas and I left. We drove around the block a couple times trying to see if anything was open for food. And we just ended up going to the 7-Eleven, which was like right down the road from where we were just at. So I was coming out of 7-Eleven with Lucas, and I wasn't even streaming or anything. We were just going right back over to the car. But I had like put my vest and everything on myself anyway. And we came out, and I was like gonna walk over towards the car. And I was like, where's Lucas at? And I didn't see him over by the car, and I heard like yelling and like some altercation happening down the road. So I looked down, and I saw like a group of people chasing after this. There was a group of black guys chasing after like this white dude, and they were running after him down the road. So I was like, oh shit! So I ran down the road and like came to my Slurpee and stuff to Luke, and ran over there, and there was a group of people like jumping and like beating on this one guy, and they had him on the ground and like they were kicking him and stuff. And there was a bunch of people standing around watching, but nobody was doing anything. And I didn't know like what that dude had done. You know, it may have been justified by them to do it, whatever, but like I didn't know what happened, and I wasn't just going to let them sit there and beat this dude in front of me. And I was like, I'm not going to jump in there because I don't know these guys. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. So I pulled out, I carry a flashlight on me that's also a taser. So I pulled that out and I was like, and I just like air fired it a couple times, and it like spooked everybody that was fighting, and everyone turned over and looked at me, and then like all the guys that were beating him then started to like come after me. And there was like this shorter guy that was in the group that ran up, and he was like, "Oh, give me your taser, blah blah blah." And I was like, "No, I'm chill. I'm just trying to break up the fight. Like, I'm not gonna zap anybody. I just didn't know what to do." And he's just like cussing at me, like lifts up his shirt and like shows me that he has a gun in his waist, and he's just like, "Give me your taser, give me your taser." I was like, "No, I'm not giving you my taser." So they like run over to the corner and they're talking whatever. So I follow them over there because I just want to talk to them and be like, I was just trying to break up the fight. Like, I've been hanging out with you guys all day, like marching, like I'm like here to help, you know what I mean? And as soon as I walk over there, like they like turn around, they're like, what's up, and just like get in my face. I'm just like here to make peace before I head out. Like, I just bought a Slurpee, I'm trying to go home. And they're just sitting there yelling at me, and then one dude just steps up and like gets up in my face and like goes to swing at me. Then I duck when he swings, and he knocks the top of my ear, knocks out my damn AirPod, which got left up in Portland. And so he knocks it out. So I like turn and just book it. I turn and book it. When I'm running, I look behind me, and the guys that have the guns and stuff, they're chasing after me. And I couldn't tell on whether they pulled them out per se, like when I was running, but I felt like to me, when I looked around, it felt like that's what they were doing. So I was booking, and I booked it about a block, and they followed me for about a block, and I ran around the corner. When I was running, they were like, "Go home or we'll fucking kill you, blah, blah, blah. You better get the hell out of here. We'll shoot you." And I was just like, all right, I'll take a hint. And I like ran around the corner and like just hid behind a car. And another funny thing, there was a security officer, like the security guys that drive around in Portland. He was like right around the corner, and I came sprinting around the corner, a lot of breath. And I was like, I stopped on the other side of the car, and he rolled down his window. I was like, those dudes over there just threatened to kill me if I don't leave. And I was like, I'm trying to get out of here. And he's like, oh, I would leave if I were you. And he just like rolled up his window and drove off. And I was just like, all right, so I guess I kind of see why we do need police driving around. The security officer just like drove off on me. I was like, whatever, but yeah, that's what happened then.
It's hard to blame him, because I mean, that dude's probably making $14-15 an hour, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah,
same thing,
like,
to be honest.
It's like, that's not, you know, and when you're security, you're hired to protect a certain area, you know, and he's like, that's not my jurisdiction. Like, I'm gonna go home to my family, and you know, but yeah. I don't know. I mean, and again, when I ask you those questions about your opinions on it, I know that you're not representing the movement with your work, but obviously, individually, you support the cause.
And yeah, I'm not afraid to state my opinion either way. I mean, the reason like why I said I decided to go neutral with it and like really kind of just take a step back to allow everybody to talk is because like my personality, like I'm not like a just a randomly just like fuck you for no reason type of person. Like I'm pretty reasonable. I like to like be friends with as many people as I can and just like have everybody feel like they are heard, and you know what I mean? So for me at first, when I did start protesting and did start recording, I was chanting and I was screaming fuck the police, and I was doing all that and just going hard with it. And like I started to like actually think, oh, what am I chanting about? Why am I yelling this? Like, what is this effect? You know what I mean? Like me yelling this has this effect on these people, and these people are upset about it. So what can I do? I need to take a step back and educate myself. So that's kind of what I've been doing. And I'm not afraid to like talk about what I believe in, but for me, like being presented as just like walking around, it's just a lot more beneficial for me to be able to just give everybody the opportunity to speak, because now all the police in Springfield and Eugene know who I am. They all know me by my name. All the people that come and counter protest with the flags all know me, and they all like are like, "Hey, what's up, Trey?" And then all the people that are protesting. So it's nice now because I can walk
yeah, because and I'm sure that situation in Portland kind of opened your eyes too. You're like, I gotta just be there to be the eyes for the community, do the service, and you know, this is a multi-pronged approach. There's a lot of different people that are doing different parts, you know, and I think it's being clear, or it's being recognized what your goal is, and that you're literally doing this for everybody. You're not doing this to show one side or whatever. You're just showing everything. I think it's pretty honorable what you're up to. And I really do hope you pursue this education, or an education in journalism, because I think you got something there.
Yeah, you know? I think I'm thinking about it. Just like I said, like this, like that first night I went down, like I didn't start like recording like and like in the mindset of, oh, I'm gonna record this and like capture this for the movement, and you know what I mean, like because I didn't know that that's what it was about. I just was just like, holy shit, shit's on fire, I'm gonna record this and like just pretty much got thrown into being the one that is down there all the time recording, which I'm not complaining about. I freaking love it. I quit my job to do it. You know what I mean? So it's like, I love doing it. It's awesome. And yeah, like you were saying earlier, it's like a passion that I felt like I had in me anyway, that like kind of just like got pulled out. So it's awesome.
So you said, I was going to ask this question. It's ridiculous, but you said that you quit your job. So how much is George Soros paying you? That is such, it's so ridiculous. You know, how much is he paying you? Not is he, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's something there, and hopefully, you know, if people want to donate to Boop Troop, where can they do that?
So right now, we're working on getting everything set up like to like be a business and nonprofit and all that. So when money gets donated, it's going back. So pretty much, I guess this will.
If people want to kick down and help you pay your bills, your rent and stuff.
Yeah. So if people want to help me out, like my Venmo is just at Stogard right now. So it's at STOGGRD, and then PayPal is the same thing, but I think it's not 81. So it's at Stogard too. So STOGGRD.
And those are going to be on your personal page as well. Like whenever you post feeds, then you post like a digital tip cup is what they call it nowadays.
Yeah. Those are on there. But I think what we're really trying to get worked in here soon is get the business and everything set up, because I feel bad taking donations from people to just like get stuff for myself. You know, even a lot of the money and stuff that we've had donated has gone back to getting more supplies and stuff for protests. We went and bought like a couple hundred ponchos from when it was raining and that type of stuff as well. And we have a bunch of like community members, and I know you said earlier like this is like, oh, the Boop Troop is hopefully going to be making this another move, and like another big movement aside from like the Black Lives Matter thing, not taking away from the importance of that.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it's a what Boop Troop is. It's full of all of the community members and like everybody in town and artists and all these people that like have been living here for years and have all these opinions and things we want to do around town to fix it. You know, I know this contractor and this guy that builds things. We're going to go around and like rebuild like all the flower pots and like help rebuild businesses that got destroyed, and just like go into businesses that have been here for years and just make things look nicer, you know, and that type of stuff. So that's really what I think the focus.
One thing, not to cut you off, but one thing about politics, okay? And I learned that by doing this podcast. The only true way to effectively get things done is coalition building. And so what you're talking about is coalition building to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
But coalition building has to be with people with differing views a lot of times. We'll never get anything done if we only work with like-minded people. That's one of the things with my podcast is that I tend to have people that are progressive thinking. And that's because it's growing. As it goes on, I'd like to have more conservative voices. I haven't when I've done election coverage because there's literally no point. Because it's people, I mean, there's no point because everyone's going to be like, Trump is innocent, and we see things completely different. There's no breaking through, or there hasn't been. Anybody that's logical, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. If you think Donald Trump is fine, then we have no reason to have a conversation.
Yeah.
It's not even debatable. But anyways, I learned that from James Barber. Coalition building is everything. So getting people to sit at the table is really important. More people, more voices at the table. But when we do get to the table, we all kind of have to compromise and come together. It's going to be really difficult, you know? And so mediation my next episode is about Arbitrator, a woman was the first female arbitrator in the state of Oregon. And that'll be airing here soon. And
can you define, I'm a little dumb. Can you define arbitrator?
So yeah, we talked about it on my episode. So basically there's a difference between a mediator and an arbitrator. In her, she worked in labor arbitration. What that is when the labor management, so the business, and then the union that protects the employees, they would have a discussion or disagreement. And then an arbitrator in the middle would hear their sides. And then an arbitrator is like a judge. So they would make the decision for them. Okay. A mediator would be somebody that would hear both sides, and then they would kind of give their input, and then they would persuade the both sides to come to an agreement, but they themselves have to come to an agreement. So mediation is, and again, I'll be dropping that episode, so I'm not sure. It might be tomorrow and it might be next weekend. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, well, that's a really cool one. And she's, it's funny. She's an older woman who's a family. She's a second cousin once removed that's found me on social media. So
Oh,
that's
really?
Madam
That's
Arbitrator. Senseless plug for my own podcast. But anyways, Ray, it's really nice to finally talk to you. I'm inspired by the work you're doing in the community. I encourage anybody listening to this to go to booptroopeugene.com. Also, the Facebook, I'm going to tag you and Boot Troop's Facebook page. And people can follow you. If you disagree with Trey's work or whatnot, or whatever you want to call it, just follow him. Don't add him as a friend. Just follow him, because then you can see the feeds. You know what I mean? Like, a friend is literally called a friend for a reason.
Well, I gotta figure out how to make it to where people can follow my personal page, because right now I'm just accepting every friend request. Like, I went through and pulled off. I made copies of all my personal information and then removed it all to just accept everybody. And what we want to do is move everybody over to Twitch, but I just don't have a good stable phone and everything right now to be able to do it on there each time. So eventually, we're gonna have everybody onto a different platform instead of Facebook, so that way people will just have a page to go follow. But right now, on
Twitch, do you have to have an account to view it?
I think you have to have an account to view it, but it's free to make an account. You can watch it for free.
My opinion, I think Facebook reaches a wider audience.
Yeah.
I think it reaches a wider range of age, a range of viewpoint, because Twitch, in my opinion, and I'm not paid by Facebook, I think Facebook is the devil, so don't get me wrong, but this video just got taken down. No.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I worry about that. I've thought the same thing for the podcast. Hopefully Boop Troop Eugene gets big enough that you're doing live streams on the website. That should be the goal.
Yeah.
And then you post that, and you can do it through OBS. We'll talk off air of ways that I can, and over the next few weeks.
Yeah, because you can restream and do all that. I'm pretty sure as well too. So yeah.
Anyway, so thanks for doing this. Thank you for everybody listening. I'm gonna end this with a song that I released the day that Bernie Sanders dropped out of the race, and I had been working on it, but it was fitting, kind of, because it's called Revolution. Well, I mean, it's tough with songs. I didn't make it for this episode, but I thought it was fitting because it's called Revolution, and it's all I really wanted was just a little revolution. I mean, come on, just a little revolution, which is a big thing, and I think we're seeing one. So, Trey Stewart, Boop Troop Eugene. This song is me, Patty Rose, Revolution. Thanks for doing this, man.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
All I ever wanted was a little revolution. All I ever wanted was a little revolution. All I ever wanted. All I ever wanted. All I ever wanted. All I ever wanted. Let's start by defining what a socialist is and conquer all of the myths dinosaurs tell their kids. It's a theory or a practice of distributing wealth, but corruption led the past attempts without using stealth. There was authoritarian principles in every example, and murderous dictators as the struggle was ample. Democracy can lead to promises of freedom only if we teach our kids to fight without using guns. Stand up at the ballot box, but the progress is slow. Fight for what you know is right, but sometimes you must overthrow. Stand up at the ballot box, but the progress is slow. Fight for what you know is right, but sometimes you must overthrow.
Today in America, you got 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom half of the American society. You got the top 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 92%. Listen to this. This is a statistic we recently saw. Came from the Federal Reserve. Over the last 30 years, the top 1% has seen a $21 trillion increase in their wealth. The bottom half of America has seen a $900 billion decline in their wealth. So what you have in America today is a relatively small number of incredibly wealthy people. And I deal with these guys every day. People say, oh, we're talking about rich. You don't know what rich is, what multi-billion-dollar operations are. Incredible power over our society.
All I ever wanted was a little revolution. All I ever wanted was a little revolution. All I ever wanted. All I ever wanted. All I ever wanted. All I ever wanted.
It's not any different with the fossil fuel industry or the prison industrial complex. These guys have wealth, they have power, and they could care less about the needs of working people in this country. And that's the dynamic of American politics right now. we're taking them all on. And I know it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But we are taking on all of these entities and all of their wealth and all of their power. And that's what a political revolution is about.